Paco cleans up Libba. Does quells the Bont. Jones performs again. And the Dons conquer the Dogs on Friday night footy. This is the Sash, definitely not the official podcast of the Essendon Football Club. I'm your host, Rob, here with you for the Monday review show. And joining me in studio is James. Hello, buddy.
G'day, Rob. Very good to be here.
Good to see you.
A little better than last time I saw you.
I reckon.
Yeah, we started our weekend nicely. It's I don't mind the Friday night footy. I know Mert was mentioning we probably never deserve to play on Friday night again, but it's always dangerous because it really makes or breaks your weekend from the start. So a much nicer feeling Friday night for us.
Yes, a good weekend for all. Couldn't be any more different than how we felt this time last week. Joel, are you on your phone?
Yeah. Just looking to get some new team kits for my social clubs.
What sport are you playing?
Basketball, soccer, footy, rugby, cricket, pickleball, tennis, netball, a bit of esports. Yep.
Gee, bit of a jack of all trades, Joel.
Yeah, well, I've got a pickleball background.
Oh, that's important for the podcast game, the old pickleball background. Where are you getting these kits from?
Get my kits from First Ever Custom. You actually get 10% off when you check out using the discount code SASH10.
So all of those team kits for all those different sports you mentioned, you're going to get 10% off.
Yeah, that's right. So the credit card's getting a bit of a workout, but I generally leave things to the last minute, and only 15 business days turnaround for delivery, so I'm going to get them quickly. Only
15 business days. When does pickleball season start?
There's many seasons.
Many seasons.
Yeah.
All year round. Well, that's Don's Footy, baby. You can check the links on our socials and in the episode description. Now, for the viewers who are watching the show, me being the bright spark that I am and not being overtired at all, left my bag at the front door and I don't have my computer with me. So normally I sit with my computer with me, I have my notes. So instead I'm running off the phone tonight. So if at any point I drift off or there's a long pause, it's because I don't really know what I'm doing. And the 20 tabs of data that I have open that I occasionally will look at because there was a point that I wanted to make. None of those are here. Instead, I've just got the random thoughts that come out of my brain over the weekend. So who knows how this is going to go from here? But look, I'm all for it. This will be fun, I reckon.
Off the cuff, but it'll be positive.
Yeah.
Keen to be positive. We were down last weekend, so we'll make up for it.
Yeah, exactly. I saw my dad yesterday, and he's like, "Oh, I've been listening to your podcast," and I was like, "Oh, you hopefully not last week." And he's like, listen to last week," and I'm like, "Oh God."
Well, I had a similar thing as well, so I was very, very glad that we had that explicit warning right off the cuff because we certainly needed that. Yeah, it wasn't the one for little Freddie or family and friends to be listening to.
No, certainly wasn't. Mert was on one, as you'd say. He was meant to be here tonight, but his unfortunately work commitments have kept him unavailable this week. I feel like next time we lose by 10 goals, he'll just be like, "I'm back in." So,
too much positivity.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think Mert's interested in the positivity, and we save him for the 10-goal losses.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Hopefully he's not back again this year for our sake, but I know he's a popular man reading through the comments, so I'm sure he'll be back soon. Yeah, exactly.
Look, a solid response. I think that's the best way to look at it. It was a solid response because the heat was on. From the media, from people like us, from fans, like leading into the game, I would comfortably say 9 out of 10 people thought the Bulldogs were going to win, and the 1% being the blind faith and those who didn't know, who just didn't have any clue. But we were all wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong because I think I spent most of Friday telling everyone I know who loves footy. I was like, gee, if you're going to punt this weekend, Bulldogs forwards, I reckon, safe money. And I've never been more happy to lose $30 in my life. So, the response was what was needed, and that's what we got.
Yeah, it was great. And look, I think we had every right to be sceptical, especially given our injuries and obviously our performance last weekend. We were playing a really, really good side in Port Adelaide on their home deck. So,
and the history as well with the Bulldogs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was once in the last 9 or once in the last 10.
Yeah.
And the one that we did win, I think we were talking about it last weekend, Peter Wright kicked 7.
Yeah,
so,
and no one was in the stadium.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was, it was fair to not be going in with a whole heap of confidence, but pleasantly surprised. I thought we took it up to them in the midfield, which was one area of concern, and I thought we quelled their big forwards relatively well. And again, we were certainly undermanned, particularly in that area of the ground. Mackay was sort of the only tall backman we had, but I thought the rest of them punched above their weight really, really well. And then the forwards clicked again after, they didn't get much of an opportunity to last week, but they were back to their best. Langers and Stringer performed well again.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that I wasn't there. This was one that I had to watch from home. Being a father now, my night games will be limited this year, and when I look at the fixture and I can probably get away with a couple. Despite the fact of being Friday night, I didn't put the Bulldogs on my list. I was like, look, Dreamtime I want to go to. Maybe the Carlton game, assuming I'm not going away for the long weekend. I think those are the couple that I'm going to take. So the Dogs wasn't one, but I think it was, it must have been awesome for Essendon fans to actually see us beat the Bulldogs because it's been that long, at least in front of a crowd. If 7-seater kicks a bag and no one's there to see it, did it actually happen? That's the question we all need to ask ourselves, I think. But yeah, you're right. So many things worked well. So many, not crazy amount of changes, but the coaches made some changes. The coaches took some risks, and they paid off because, Brad admitted himself in the post match that not only did the team get thumped last week on the field, the coaches made some moves that didn't work out well, and what their reactions didn't change anything. Whereas this week they obviously did make moves, and they worked pretty well. The thing for me that I like about this is that we've played 5 games now, or 5, competitive games, obviously 2 practice matches, but let's forget about them for now. We've played 5 games. 4 of them have been competitive. 1 not so competitive. We're competitive for a quarter, but let's just say no against Port Adelaide. That's a pretty good start for the year for mine. Obviously, we didn't win against St Kilda, and, we were by no means perfect in the St Kilda or Hawthorn games, or even the Bulldogs game. Still work in progress, but banking early wins is very, very important. And this last weekend, I think the second half, easily the best half of footy we've played this year. And I think we are seeing what Brad Ball 2024 looks like, and we can see what it looks like when it works. And I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think we've all been crying out for consistency and knowing what we're going to get when we turn up to the footy. And that's something we haven't had for a very long time. I think we can all understand that we have a young list. We have a lot of players coming through that are still developing and need time. And we've got quite a few players that we've brought across in the off-season that are still going to need time to gel and get used to our game plan. But the one thing that frustrates us more than anything, I think it's fair to say, is that we turn up and we have no idea how we're going to play. Sometimes we'll take it up to the best. Sometimes we'll get thrashed by 15 goals and look like we're not trying. So I think this year so far, as you've said rightfully there, we've been competitive in all but one of those games, and that was against Port Adelaide, who look like they'll be potentially top 4.
80% competitive, 20% not. So that's a decent start. If I said to most people pre-season that we'd be 3-2 and we're solid in 4 games and bad in 1, I think most people would say, okay, I'd take that, knowing where we came from last year. Essendon has been that the meme of what's his name? The Gattuso, the Italian manager. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, and that's been Essendon since like 2017, to be honest. But hopefully this is something we can repeat, because I think we've set the bar now in terms of going, this is what our best footy can look like. It wasn't the whole game, but it was a good solid patch. This is what it can look like. Now it's about repeating it, because if we go to Adelaide next week, the scene of the crime, and we put in another performance like we did against Port, then we'll all be sitting there going, so that was a 1-week thing that we were going to do? Or are we going to play more like we had in those other games, and ideally more like we did in the Bulldogs game, and go, no, this is what fans should expect. This is what other people can expect. This is what the opposition should expect. But that's the big question. Is this a once-off?
That's right. And plenty has been made of, the Essendon edge, and that's sort of been a beat up in the media. And I know some people...
Edgington, yeah.
Yeah, Edgington. Some of the people that I've spoken with that Essendon supporters aren't stoked that there's been that much talk about it. But on the flip side, we've sort of stuck to it, apart from the second half of that Port game.
Yeah.
It's built around contested ball. It's built around being aggressive at the clearance. And after every goal, it starts in the middle.
Yeah.
So there's always an opportunity to keep that style going, keep that momentum going. And we've stuck to that. So I don't really care what they call it. If I know I can go to the footy and see the boys crack in for 4 quarters. Sydney was obviously the other game that we went down in, but stats-wise, we broke even across those measures, which the club is saying this is our brand of football. So,
and we were there till pretty late.
Yeah, and got run over by a really good side on their home deck late, which, we can accept that happens if the effort is there and that brand is there. And so a really good opportunity, as you said, to go back to Adelaide this weekend, Friday night, and show that Port game was hopefully a once-off.
Yeah, and depending on what kind of supporter you are and how you view footy, some people go, oh, good, Adelaide have had their first win now. So that's good. They've got that monkey off the back. Now they might be a little bit more relaxed, but the other people might say, well, now they've been played into form. So depends how you look at it. But either way, it's going to be a good challenge. Unlike Port, we have very good history against Crom. So it'll be an interesting one. Let's get into the goods. Let's talk about the game itself. We can save next week's chat for Thursday's pod. I think we've got to start with the man who was, look, in the end, having watched a bit of the game back, not the whole replay, although I did give Jai Caldwell my 3 votes, I think Sammy Durham probably was best on ground in the end, having watched it back with the more relaxed view. And yeah, wow, what a story he's becoming from a mid-season pickup. And we do hang a fair bit of shit on old Dodo on this program. If you listen to Thursday's premium show, Jesse decided it was the time to go through the draft the last 10 years and every pick that he had. Look, it was fun content. I enjoyed the conversation. Don't get me wrong. But if we're going to pot him for his losses, and he's there tends to be some of the high picks have been the ones that don't go right. He's plucked a couple of gems up in the mid-season.
Yeah, we can just do mid-season. Maybe that will be okay.
Yeah, let's
don't worry about the national draft. Where those really good kids are. We'll just do the mid-season and pick out the gems. It seems to be working.
Yeah, so Daz has come a long way, and it would be. I know I'm jumping very far ahead, but it would be great in a couple of years' time if Richmond supporters are talking about, hey, he was one that got away. Because we all sit there and look at the draft and be like, oh, what if we picked him instead of him? And what if this happens or this happened? But it'd be cool if we can be the supporter base who are going, hey, look, we picked the gem out from right under your nose and you missed out on him. So that'd be great. But to his game, took on the Bont, who, if he's not the best in the comp, he's probably top 3 or 4. And, when was the last time you watched Essendon play Bulldogs and Bontempelli didn't have a big game? Probably when he wasn't playing. Exactly. Like when he wasn't
before
playing.
His time.
Yeah, exactly. So, it felt so different to see him there. Such an X factor, still so raw. And like you hear Brad talk about how he's like, I don't think he realised what he could become. And hopefully, and it seems to be going that way, that maybe we have the development team around these people now to actually get that out of them. And like the whole team's performance, hopefully this wasn't a flash in the pan moment, but something that maybe we can rely upon in the future.
Yeah, I think we've seen him build. I wasn't surprised to see his game. Some people might have been, but I think he's shown glimpses of that. He got his opportunity on the weekend to play that full-time midfield role, which, as I said, he's been building towards. But I think he really thrived in the challenge of going to Bontempelli. He seems like the character that would really build himself up over the week to take on a challenge like that and really back himself in. And he did a terrific job. I know you mentioned you just gave Caldwell the 3 votes, but the top note I've got is I thought he was clearly best on ground. Yeah. He did get the 10 coaches' votes as well. So obviously both coaches thought that too. Maybe Bevo more from the defensive job on Bon and maybe Scotty from both the offense and the defense. I thought he was fantastic. And the one thing that I sort of was thinking when I was watching Sammy go about his business was that I reckon there's a perception that he's a very scrappy, in and under dog of a player, which he very much is. Yeah. And I love that about him and I love watching him go to work every week. But he's so much more than that. He's such a classy, composed player. His balance through traffic is unbelievable. And he uses the ball really, really well, both in congestion and when he's got time to balance up. He laced out Stringer twice inside 50, one in the first quarter, one in the last. So he's showing that he's got more dynamics to his game than just being that in and under scrapper. And
And think about what was his first game? I can't remember, but think about that time that he had his first shot on goal. What was it? 15 metres out, directly in front, and he shanked the footy. And then you watch the replay back, and you see him hitting these, beautiful 40-metre passes, maybe 50-metre passes to Stringer in the lead. And I'm like, is this the same guy? This is the same guy. So he's clearly worked on that side of the game, and he's getting a bit more polished. And he's, he's like you said, he's still rugged and he's still raw and he still throws his weight around. And I can't remember where maybe it was on the radio over the weekend, or I can't remember who said it. Maybe it was post match, but they were talking about Caldwell. But I actually think this also applies to Durham, where that having been given a job, going, you're going to go to Bonampelli at all the at the stoppages most of the time. I think that is good for him at this point in his career, because I'm not sure if he's at that point yet where it just goes, on you go find the footy. Because even the practice games where we saw him run through the middle a little bit, he kind of got lost in moments, and 10, 15-minute passages. Might have even happened against Hawthorn round 1, where there was just a passage where you just kind of went missing a little bit. But when you got a job and it's pretty clear and you're still a young footy player, it's like, no, you run with him, and trust me, he'll find the footy. He'll know where to go.
Yeah.
I think you'll learn a lot from that. And for both Durham and Caldwell to play against two guys who regularly rack up the footy, and Bont and Libba, good learning experience, and I think they'll both be walking, pretty tall this week.
Absolutely. And I think it's easy, especially as a young player, when you get tasked of going up against, well, in this case, two of the better premium midfielders in the competition in Bont and Libba, can be easy to just focus on them and forget to actually go and play your game and go and win the footy. And they both racked up a fair bit of the ball themselves and made them pay on the way back. Whereas, I think sometimes those challenges can end up being, well, I stopped him, but I didn't play my own game, so we broke even and we cancelled each other out. It wasn't the case. They both easily won their battles, I thought. I know Libba had a little bit more of the ball than Bont, but I didn't think his use of the ball was very effective at all. He seemed to always be under pressure. And then I think Bont only had a couple of touches in that last quarter when the game was sort of in the balance for the first half of it anyway. So, couldn't be prouder of those two boys. It was awesome to watch them go to work. And, in the past we've relied on Zachy and Das and maybe a couple of others coming through there. It's nice to see that these boys can do a job for the full game, and the future is bright for those two. Yeah,
exactly. Caldwell had a massive game, had some really, really vital wins, and I feel like he's, for the most part, and maybe it's just my rose-tinted glasses this week, but definitely feels like he's very good at winning 50-50s a lot of the time. He definitely makes people earn it, and for a guy who doesn't look, stature-wise like a real big, mean thug, like he's certainly I think pushes pretty hard for his size. I'm a big fan of him, and like week after week, because I had my doubts at the start. Don't get me wrong, and I know a lot of people have, and there's probably some who still don't quite believe in him yet. But every week or so, I'm sort of going, nah, I see the value in this kid, see why he was such a high pick when GWS snapped him up, and why we wanted him. And I'm loving what he's doing. Who do you want to? Who or what do you want to give a good shout out to?
Yeah, the positives are a little longer than last weekend, which is nice. I didn't mention him last week, but he was there in my positives. But I've got him nice and high on the list again this week, and it's Xavier Dersma. Sort of spoke early on in the season that he was there, but he wasn't too noticeable, and I think that was a combination of finding his, confidence in a new side. I think he knows his role really well. He's always been a really good wingman, but starting to gel with the team, as I said, finding that confidence in the last couple of weeks. I think we've seen him really shine. I think in his defence, he was probably playing the defensive side really well, but wasn't really getting involved in offence, which I think the coaches probably like. But as supporters, we're sort of wondering where that offence is. We'd seen it at Port Adelaide. We'd seen him kicking goals and celebrating, so we were wondering where that was and when we were going to see that. And the last 2 weeks, we've seen that side of his game come into play. 20 touches, 2 goals, 85% efficiency. A really complete game from him. And I enjoyed seeing those celebrations now that he's in the red and black. I can't say I enjoyed them too much when he was at Port, but love him on our side.
And a bit of the John Cena, you can't see me.
I know.
There's definitely some WWE vibes at the Dons at the moment. We've got the Edge happening. We've got John Cena happening. Now we just need Paco to come out to the Stone Cold Steve Austin music. Glass shatters. Dun, 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 dun,
I feel like there was a bit of that with String when he was laughing at Libba as he was walking away from him. If you put a bit of background music to that, I feel like we could make it work.
Yeah, all right, there you go. Some bright spark out there. Some bright spark. Please put together some WWE audio with Stringer's tackle on Libba. Dersma, really built into the season. Started pretty slow. Where the first few weeks, his disposal, I was like, oh my God, what do we got ourselves into? But really started to tidy up. And, these last couple of weeks, probably excluding the Port game, but I guess St Kilda in this game, reminding me of some of the other great women in the comp. I was watching that game against the Dogs this weekend and it reminded me of Ed Langdon 2021 for the D's, where he's there in defence and then a minute later he's running up the other end of the ground, being involved in the passage, and in this scenario getting on the end of it and kicking a few goals. And there were some absolute top tier set shots from him. I think it was the first one on the boundary where I was just like straight away I was like, oh, okay, he's probably going to centre it. I did not think he had that in him. To absolutely drill it from there. Which I guess can just lead into discussion about generally how good our set shots have been. And the work of David Rath, or Rath, depending on how you say it. I guess they've binned the Rish and Rath now because we've got a Rath. maybe we can do Rish and Rath so it'll be Parish and David Rath podcast together. Maybe they could do that.
Bring it back.
Bring it back. Or we could do Rath and Rath together. Anyway. But we can really see the big... I always believe some of those guys are already pretty good set shots in our forward line, but I think in the 3 wins we've had, the expected score analysis has had us losing each time, but they're going back and they're taking set shots and they're getting them, and that's how they win the game. And again, this is going to be another absolute ridiculous call, but if we look back to where David Rath did his best work, which was at Hawthorn, if you go back to those grand finals, particularly the Freo and West Coast ones, both Freo and West Coast had early opportunity, particularly Freo. Nathan Fyfe, I think, had 2 set shots on goal and missed them both. Goes at the end, Hawthorn, they get it. If you don't take your chances in this game, you don't win games. And it's the one thing we're doing at the moment really, really well. Above anything else is we're taking those chances in front of goal. And that's what you want, because think about all the players in the competition and friends of yours who might go for the teams, and you'll watch their team with them together, and they'll be a Harry Mackay or someone will mark it in front of goal and they'll go, oh God, where's this going to go? There's probably only one player in that team, which is Sam Draper, who I still think that, at least in the forward group, of our key forwards, if those guys are marking it 40 out, I'm like, I don't think we're a good crack here, They're not perfect, but it's it's a good sign.
Touch wood, we can keep it going. I think I saw something.
Touch wood.
something during the week from an Essendon fan. It might have been on the old Bomber Blitz that said, we're kicking straight in front of goal, and our free kick differential is in the positive. So they're not convinced that they're watching Essendon, and I had a laugh at that, but they're not wrong.
Yeah,
both of those we've never been on the right side of, so it's quite refreshing.
It's. I haven't analysed our free kicks. There are better things to do when watching a game of footy than analyse free kicks. But I think there are 2 reasons why you win free kicks. Is 1, if you're first to the ball, and 2, if you position yourself right. And Bevo even said it himself in his post-match. He was like, oh, we gave away some dumb free kicks. And you think about some of them, there are a lot of times where we had guys out on the lead and they're getting their jumpers held, or they're first to the ball and they're getting held. Yep. And if you start winning, say it's clearance, if you win a couple in a row, then the opposition mids or people around the stoppage are going to be a bit more attentive to go, oh, God, Durham's has taken the last two, or Stringer has, or Merritt has, or whoever. And that sort of, I think it's a flow-on effect. Or it could be pure luck and umpires are random and, next week we'll have 20 to Adelaide, because we are going to Adelaide and we know what happens over there. And I've watched both Fremantle's games over there and they should be undefeated, but they're not because the umpires dogged them. So anyway, shout out to the boys from the Purple Rain podcast who I doubt are listening, but Freo should be undefeated. Anyway, that's sidetrack there.
Well, I mean, to your point though, if we continue to play the brand of football that we want to play, you would expect that we'll be getting those free kicks. And when you've got blokes like Duz and Caldwell putting their head over their footy like they do, I would expect to keep winning them. But again, touch wood. Anzac Day's not far away, Rob.
No, it's not. It's not. We've all got strong memories of what's happened there. Next thing I wanted to bring up, and it is a good, and I guess it is also a question. And look, it's a question that we've discussed on this show a lot, and I think a lot of Essendon fans talk about, is that when everyone's available, how is the best, what is the best balance? Particularly with our forward line. Now, on the weekend, our forward pressure, I think, was the best it's ever been. And how we ran was we had 3 genuine small forwards. Then we had 3 keys who can all apply pressure, Jones, Stringer and Langford. We had Hobbs in the sort of half forward, push up to the contest. Times he was running with Johannesson from what I saw. And then obviously we had the resting ruckman there as well. As for the most part, other people might have drifted there, but that was the main thing. I think the genuine pressure we got out of the 3 smalls, plus the fact those other guys can all run and chase, was, I think, a game changer. And you look at guys who come back into the side, because when Setterfield's fit, it pushes someone out of that midfield position, whether it's Caldwell, for example. He might be the one. When Perkins is there, he has to play either mid-forward or has to play there, which then pushes someone else around. And then if Peter Wright comes back, someone has to go from those key forwards or the resting ruckman, essentially. And, we've been forced into this position through injuries and availability and suspension. But for at least this week, having that mobile forward line, I thought looked awesome. Having Alwyn Davey Jr. closing space, having Menzies running, Gresham running, Hobbs, Harrison Jones running guys down from behind. Like Joel and I think you were here, we spoke with Joel like a few weeks ago, where we were like, we love Peter and he's always going to be in the 18, but he doesn't run and chase. When the ball goes to ground, that's kind of it for Peter. Whereas Jonesy's actually following up and doing all this other work. So it's going to be really interesting once a few of those guys come back as to how they want to keep it. Because if we want to keep the ball in our forward 50 and we want to press them in, having guys who can put that pressure on, I think, is vital to the game plan. And I would almost argue it suits a forward line like that as opposed to one that has lots of tools in it, like the Bulldogs had. And they had it just running out of their back line because, for all their talent, Darcy, Jamara and Norton, they aren't running dudes down, are they? Or at least they weren't on the weekend.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think it's also a credit to the midfield as well. I thought we lowered our eyes really, really well instead of bombing away. Liam Jones, I think, only took 5 marks for the entire game with the forward line that we were rolling into the game with. I had visions of him sort of intercepting everything and anything. So I think also a credit to our midfielders, as I said, for lowering the eyes. I thought we did it really, really well. But again, maybe that's the pressure that the ball is on for the Bulldogs coming out of their D50. Are we then open to hit targets more so than if we had Peter Wright trying to chase down? But you mentioned Harry Jones there. I thought he was excellent, not just for his couple of goals, but I think what stood out for everyone, for us, was his intensity and aggression and desperation, which I was pretty disappointed with and vocal about after that first game against Hawthorn. He looked like a completely different player. So that was nice to see. But yeah, to your general point around what's our best setup, I'm still confident that Peter Wright's part of our best forward 50 setup.
Of course.
But how do we balance that out? You mentioned Ben Hobbs there as well. Quickly give him some praise. I thought his game was excellent. It's probably not one of those games where a lot of people sort of thought he stood out, but I thought he played his role beautifully. I think in the past, Hobbsy, if he hasn't been able to play on ball, he sort of looked a little bit lost and unsure of himself and not really sure how to play anywhere else apart from on ball. He didn't have one centre bounce attendance, which I thought was really, really interesting, especially without Setterfield in the side. You'd sort of think that maybe he takes Perkins, some of those, and then obviously the loss of Perkins. Felt like watching the replay. He was always there to apply pressure, to contest for us, playing a really difficult high half-forward role where you can get lost in the game. Listening to Brad Scott's post-game press conference, he sort of said, there's a lot of people that will get praise and there's a lot of people that did a role and they won't get praise. And I reckon Hobbsy probably falls into that second group. But I thought it was an excellent game. And I've always wondered if he's not winning the ball, what can he provide us? Well, I think he showed us he can play that role. I still think he's fantastic in and under. That's his natural game, but I think he's needed to add a couple of layers to his game, and he's shown he can play us that role, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if he can back that up. Yeah,
exactly. And then, another guy as well who, I mean, actually, he's had a little bit of praise through the Essendon channels, but, wouldn't into the mainstream is Owen Davey Jr., who obviously got a goal there, but I think led the game for pressure acts. Just running, chasing, even if it's as small as just a hand on the back, it all matters at the end of the day. I was really rapt to see him have a crack because, early on in the game, he looked really struggling with the speed of the game. And, I recall Kingo sending me a message just being like, looks like he's battling a bit here. But come second half of the game, really built into it, I think. And, it'll be interesting to see what happens with, those small forward positions over the next few weeks because, Menzies got subbed out and they said his shoulder was a bit sore, but who knows if it's anything to keep him out. But, I wonder if they'll give him a few more opportunities over the next few weeks because,
I really hope we stick with him. I think I said it last week. If someone's going to come in and get an opportunity and play a role for us, I want to see them have a month at it. And I think he's probably been another victim in the past where it's come in, play a game, get dropped, come back in, but you're the sub, come back in again, but you get subbed off. So I just want to see him get a bit of consistency. I think his pressure has always been A-class, and he showed that again on the weekend. I think his composure with the ball lets him down a little bit. He seems to always leave kicks short for some reason. But I think with a bit of consistency, grows in confidence, I think that side of his game will come. Yeah,
because this is his third year. Yeah. So, has had a few years in the system now. So, exciting times ahead. Now, James, let's say that there was a player in the team and he was a defender and he played defence pretty well. He was limited, but he was good at shutting out his opponent. Now, what would I tell you if we actually played him in that position? What would you tell me? Would you say that was the right thing to do?
I feel like I might have mentioned it once or twice, Rob. But I think it would be a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought it was a pretty good idea as well because it was the first time a small forward this season hasn't kicked 3 or more goals on us. Who would have thought that Jake Kelly could lock down a small defender and play a defensive role and not up on the wing? And I thought he played a really good game. And Cody Waitman had 1 point. I think he had a goal assist from a handball, but he was largely, uninfluential on the game. And we know what Waitman's done to us in the past, unfortunately. Copped a few boos from the faithful, which is good. Look, who knows what's going to happen over the next few weeks, but I would absolutely hope that with the options we have to play in that wing position, knowing that Dersma is absolutely locked down one side, knowing that, we're still developing Cox there. If we have to put Durham there, we can, or potentially someone else, that maybe, just maybe, we'll just leave old Jakey boy in the back pocket where he does his best work. Because if we're going back to Adelaide Oval, there's a few handy small blokes who run through there, whether it be a Rankin or a Rochelle or someone else. And I would hope that he's lining up there and not trying to run against someone else on the wing. So,
I mean,
let's put this experiment to bed, I think.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The experiment is over. It's done. It's dead and buried. A great game from Jake. I just wrote finally. That was my note under Jake, finally, exclamation mark. And I think that probably sums it up. Side note, as you mentioned, the boos on Waitman as well. When I was watching the replay, I heard BT say, "Oh, is that
it was Richo?
Richo? Is that Waitman getting booed? Not sure what he's done. What have we missed? Well, clearly missed the last few games that we've played against the Bulldogs, including that final down in Tassie. But
yes,
great to see Kelly back in his natural position, and lo and behold, he did a great job. And,
who would have thought?
I never want to see him on a wing again.
No.
And he should just be automatically on the best small forward each week, set and forget.
Because he does it well. He does it well. Like, all right, they might kick a goal or two here or there, but if we're going to play him in the team, and he's not my favourite player, but I know what he brings to the side, and he's a limited defender, but he's a defender. And sometimes you need to play those guys. Like we had remember we had a discussion here with Jesse, and Jesse was talking about how we don't have enough tough defenders and we've got too many of these rebounders. Well, if you play Jake Kelly there, you actually do have someone who that's his strength. He'll throw his weight around. He can actually play quite bigger than his actual size. He's very fit. He's very fierce. Yeah, his kicking's not that great, but you can cover that by the fact that if he's taking their best small forward out of the game, that's a win. That's an absolute win for mine. So, happy to keep him playing if that's where he's going to play. Point proven. Yeah. Full forward next week, Brad. Full forward, Jake Kelly next week. That's what I want to see. No, I'm kidding.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, I know.
Nah, excellent. Yeah, Waitman not having an impact on the game. That's beautiful.
Happy days. Happy days. Who else you got for me? Or what else you got for me?
I mentioned Harry Jones. I mentioned Hobbsy. Benny Mackay just going about his business, having a really, really good season.
It's a standard now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice to have a big body back there for our structure. He's leading that back line really well in the absence of Ridley, who's sort of usually the guy back there that sets us up. So coming to a new side, showing his leadership. I thought there was a couple of times on the weekend where he had to put his body on the line and knew he wasn't going to mark the ball, knew it wasn't going to be a clean spoil, but had to put some body on, sort of get sandwiched between Norton and Ugle-Hagan, and he did that and looked a bit sore afterwards, so hopefully he's all right. But he's putting together a really, really good season. And then the use of the ball, I've spoken about it a couple of times. When he came across from North, everyone was saying he's a turnover merchant, and he gives the ball straight back. And
that kick, was it against us where he kicked on the ground? Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And that may have been the case, but he went at 100% again. I know he only had 13 disposals,
David Rath.
100%.
Old Rath down there, old Rish and Rath getting down there.
And not something I'd expect from Benny, but a couple of times, you've seen him sort of run out and pick the ball up on the half volley and feed it out, and off we go. And
his hands below his knees are really good. I remember thinking that in the St Kilda game because I was there. There was, like you said, a few sort of half volleys. He picked it up, and I was like, gee, does that pretty well for a big boy. Look, I'm loving what I've seen. I really didn't know what to expect, and I said on the show early on this season, end of last year, that I was worried we were going to have those, $1 million a mark articles, in the Herald Sun and SEN and all that, but there's been none of those because he's been one of our best players. I mean, all the guys we've brought in have all performed really well, which has been great. So happy with him. One that I guess it worked out, but it was. I'll tell you what, I was worried watching on the television. I'm like, because I know you were there. I'm not sure how much you guys looked at it, but Mason Redman lining up on Sam Darcy at times. Now, we're lucky we can do this now because in a couple of years' time, there's no way we're going to be able to get away with it because, he'll be bigger and stronger and all that. But, it was a massive risk doing that. I guess the other option was Coxie or Jake Kelly. I don't know. But they took a risk on it and I think it worked. Like Darcy had a few good moments, but I think just having that extra bit of running carry and one of the two coaches, these are the coaches' votes for everyone. I mean, you probably already know, but Durham got 10, Dersman got 6, Redman got 4, Merritt 4, Jones 2, Langford 2, Ugle-Hagan 1, Taylor Duray 1. One of the two coaches thought that Mason Redman was the second best on ground. Now, whether that's Brad going, we've just executed the master plan, or Bevo's going, you've just shut out one of my best young talented players. I'm not sure who viewed it that way, but someone clearly thinks that he was one of the best players on the ground. And I thought it was just such a fascinating move, all in all. And a huge risk, but I guess it worked out because we won.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. You win the game and there's no dramas, and you lose the game and you're going, why on earth would you do that?
Yeah.
So I understand that, but look, I was at the game, so it's a bit harder to see those sorts of matchups until you go back and watch the replay. But did I think he was in the top few players on the ground? No, I probably didn't. I thought he had a solid game.
Yeah.
But I think with those sorts of things, you have to put pressure on in the midfield. If the Bulldogs are streaming through the midfield like we've seen too many times in the past, then Darcy's going to beat Redmond with some good service.
Yep.
But our pressure was on. We kept them under the pump inside 50, which meant that Redmond could then play his offensive game and run off him. So it's a bit of a risk, and I don't think it's necessarily down to Redmond in terms of executing it. I think it's probably more down to our mids and the pressure up the field. And we did that really well, which then meant that Darcy sort of couldn't execute his game and Redmond could run off him and be really offensive. But probably, as I said, wasn't in my top handful of players, but a solid game.
Yeah, cool. So, Jake Kelly, All-Australian wing, Mason Redmond, All-Australian centre-half back. That's what we're gonna go with. I thought Todd Goldstein gets another shout-out. He's ageless, that bloke. Just every week, I'm like, I can't believe this guy's still getting around. And he's just an absolute professional and looking like an absolute bargain of a pickup for us at the moment. And, I'm hoping that all the knowledge that, Drapes and maybe Nick Bryan, if he's hanging around, are getting from him is going to be invaluable to the future, because a really solid game against, I think, Tim English was the All-Australian ruckman last year, wasn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, I think he was, yeah. So really strong game against a very, very good player in Tim English, who has done a number on us before. Love Goldie.
What do you think will happen with Goldie over the next few weeks? Obviously, we keep saying he's going to need a rest, and then he comes back out and plays really well. Do you think we'll be resting him? And I suppose I say that with Peter Wright coming back in a couple of weeks' time. What are your thoughts?
I think one of him or Draper is going to get rested.
Yep.
And I actually wouldn't be shocked if it was Draper as well. I think they've both got different things. Goldie's incredible fitness, but he's obviously older, whereas Draper's fitness is a bit low. He's come back off a long-term injury that was really, hurt him last season. So if they went, all right, this is a tactical week, we're going to do it. The question is who you do it against, though, because Peter Wright comes back for Anzac Day against Collingwood. They've got Cox and Cameron as their ruck combination, I'm assuming, is what they'll be running with. There you go. Okay, are we better having, do we want Wright to be there against those guys? Or are we going to have the two ruckmen? Obviously, the other question is, the assumption is that all our forwards remain fit and healthy from here on in. And then I think, who do we have? I think we have West Coast after there.
I think you're right. I think we go to West Coast, and then the Giants at Marvel. So that's the next four.
So Bailey Williams for West Coast, assuming did he ruck on the weekend? I don't know. I saw West Coast won, and I tipped them. Yes,
possibly.
Yeah, but he's really good, and he absolutely jumped all over Draper last year. So again, that may be the one, that may not be the one. I'm not sure, but I'm of the firm belief that if Jones, Stringer, Langford are all fit and firing when Peter's ready to come off his suspension, that my assumption is one of those two guys is going to have a week off. Because I think it'd be a massive risk to play the two rucks plus those other four in the same side. Unless we're dropping one of these mid-forward players we've got and we're just running with a bunch of smalls, like real proper smalls. Yeah, I think you just have you worry you go too top heavy, because I look at the West Coast game at Optus Oval, or Optus Stadium, how big it is, the expanse, and how often we've been beaten on the spread there. That's the last game you want to have a team like that. That's where you want to have a team like the one we had on the weekend with lots of run and carry. And then you look at the Giants and you go, oh God, they're just awesome. So I don't know. It's a really hard decision. And I think this is actually going to be one of the hardest decisions for the coaching group in the next few weeks when Peter's ready, assuming all those things I mentioned are there. So look, I don't envy them for this choice.
Good problem to have.
Great problem to have.
Probably not a problem we've had historically in terms of depths of selection, especially in that tools department. So a good problem to have, but yeah, it's I guess it's a problem for the coaches, not us. We just look at the teams when they come out. But yeah, you sort of don't want to lose the structure of what's working, but then you've also got to take into account, well, who are we playing and what are they rolling with? What are their weaknesses?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, transition defense is obviously the one thing that causes us so many problems. The taller you go, the harder that becomes on the smalls. So yeah, interesting problem to have. We'll wait and find out.
Any more goods from you before we move into the bads?
I think I went through all of my goods, but I guess a team one rather than an individual one. Last week I was really disappointed with the tackling and physicality. Yeah. I thought we had a number of tackles broken, which is extremely frustrating. Thought we stuck our tackles really, really well. In fact, It was the opposite. There was some bone-crunching tackles. I know we spoke about Stringer on Libba before. I think Harry Jones got Richards at one point.
That's right, yeah.
I think Gresham might have got Buku Kamas. I think I got that one right as well. Like, really stuck them and made them hurt. And I thought that was obviously part of an overall response from last week, but I would be surprised if Brad Scott didn't reference the lack of tackling and the lack of effort in trying to tackle last week. I thought we responded really well. It was nice to see.
Yep. Let's get into the bads. Only a couple from me, and I guess this is more of a query than an actual bad, but Darcy Parish is surely not fit. He's surely not 100% because he did not look at the pace for a lot of the game. Like, he had a bit of the ball, but just from what we know can be the good Darcy Parish, it just didn't seem like he was anywhere there. And I really, like, particularly in that first half where early on there were long passages where the Bulldogs were on top and just thankfully weren't converting that much. He just didn't look up to it. And I was just sitting there going, like, I mean, because what, is that his third game back now or fourth game back?
Third,
probably
I think.
Third game. Yeah, 3 games back from injury. Usually the first one you go, all right, you might be a little bit rusty. But you've been back for 3 weeks, full training, and you don't look like you're there. And I mean, it's a concern because I'm sort of going, this calf, was a calf again, wasn't it? Yeah, this calf issue that he's kind of had on and off for a few years now. Like, if he just keeps doing this, it's like, are we going to get back to the good Darcy Parish that we know exists? Or is this kind of it now? And I'm a bit worried because, I'd like to see a fit and firing Darcy Parish in the side, but he doesn't look fit at the moment.
No, it's my first stop point next to his name. Didn't look fit. Watching the replay, seemed to be labouring at times through the midfield, particularly having to chase after their mids. Not that he gave up, but he was sort of almost pulling up, I think, which is a clear sign that he's not 100%.
Yep.
I guess we spoke about it before as well, but can we have sort of Parish and Setterfield in that same midfield mix? Now, I know Will Setterfield wasn't playing on the weekend, but I think when everyone is fit, touch wood, both of those guys are in the side, so that's probably an area of concern as well. It's interesting. Brad Scott's always saying, if you're not 100%, we're not going to play you. Well,
doesn't look it.
If he's not 100% fit, what are we doing? And if he is, that's probably even more of a concern because that's then a question on effort and buy-in. But he doesn't look as explosive as he has been from the stoppage.
No, definitely not.
When I think of Parish at his best, he's exploding out of those stoppages and then, maybe muffing the kick.
Yeah.
It has been his problem, but it certainly hasn't been winning that hard ball and those first few steps. He's usually quite good at getting away and then giving off a handball or getting the clearance. So, it's a concern. When he's at his best, he's obviously an integral part of our midfield, but at the moment he's not far off getting pushed out from Calders and Durham, who are above him at the moment, it's fair to say.
Yeah, at least on recent performances. Like, you'd hope for his sake he gets back to it, but I mean, if there's a few more weeks of that and guys are coming back into the side and a fit, then you do worry. But, Brad certainly loves the senior boys and he'll get plenty of opportunities, as we know. But hopefully it gets back to being fit. A bad from you?
I put down Jai Menzies now. First point I've got is potential shoulder injury, so maybe an asterisk on that. But I think it's fair to say he's been down for the entire season. 4 disposals on the weekend, 1 tackle. I thought we played really well from a pressure or a half-forward pressure game, and then he only had one tackle. So clearly not a major part of that either, and then wasn't really getting the ball on offense, didn't hit the scoreboard. So again, maybe there was a shoulder injury there to cut him some slack, but yeah, he's been down from what we know he can be. And then obviously Davey was really lively. We spoke about him before. He had the 22 pressure acts, which is the game high. So where does that leave Menzie in this side? I think some time in the twos to gain some confidence. We know he's got some class. He knows where the goals are. I think he'd really benefit from that.
I think. Sorry to cut you off. I think Brad Scott did mention pre or post game, but he did mention that Nick Hind, just purely because he's been like emergency and the sub, that they will just start him a game soon at either level to play a full game because he just simply hasn't for match fitness. So I wouldn't be shocked if we did see Hind come in for potentially for Menzie this week, unless we are bringing someone up from the twos to take his position.
Oh yeah, I noted down that Sardis was taken off at halftime of the reserves game. Now the reserves played before the AFL, so whether that was just protocol and had to be done, probably more likely, but he had 15 disposals at halftime, so he was on track to have a really, really good game. And then Dylan Shield got through his game. Listening to Brad Scott, it sounded like he'd probably give him another week in the twos. He was on limited minutes this week. Probably build that up again next week, and then maybe look at bringing Shield in on Anzac Day, depending on how he gets through. But there's a bit of pressure on Menzie's spot now. I really like him, but he's not in form. It happens. Maybe some time in the twos for him.
Yeah, exactly. Other bads, I mean, look, turnovers are a usual issue. It's a turnover game, as we know, and we have to clean that up, against the real good sides, because whilst Friday was good, I think we've had 2 wins over 2 middle 6 teams, being St Kilda and the Dogs, a win over a bottom 6 side, and then obviously 2 losses to 2 top 6 sides as it stands. So that one's going to clean up. And then look, this is a really minor one, but I didn't like that we conceded the last 2 goals, because if we are going to, try and be, hit the F word, the other F word, listeners, later this season, percentage is vital. And unfortunately, the shellacking we got from Port has skewed that. And I think we were like 43, 44 points up at one point, and I would have loved to have gone in with, a 50-point win to make a real statement. But they obviously rolled the dice and got a few consolation goals at the end, but that was just a very minor one from me. So I think we should take a break, and I reckon we should come back with some hot takes, because, oh boy, there's a lot of them. Attention all homeowners. Are you frustrated with your current property manager? Not receiving your rental payments on time? Property maintenance issues taking their toll? Well, say hello to Holland Price Real Estate, your trusted property management specialist. Based in Melbourne's north, Holland Price is a long-standing, family-run real estate agency with over 50 years of industry experience. What sets them apart is their dedication to providing a personalised service tailored to your specific needs. By choosing Holland Price to manage your property, you're not only supporting a small business, but also backing the Essendon Football Club, as director Carl De Sanctis is a passionate Bombers supporter. Well, aren't we all? For homeowners who believe it's time for a management change, why not make the move to Holland Price? For a limited time, they're offering an exclusive deal for listeners of The Sash. When you jump on board with Holland Price, use the code HPSASH to receive 1 month of their premium property service management free of charge. So head over to their website, hollandprice.com.au, or give them a call on 03 9384 0022 to discuss your property needs, and use HPSASH to get 1 month off the premium property management service.
Yes, get it off.
Back to the pod. Welcome back. Part 2 of the podcast. Hope you enjoyed the ad break, everyone. All right, let's get into some hot takes, and there's a mountain of them. So apologies if you don't get played this week, because I had so many to go through. Let's start with, who should we start with? This one is from Prelim Bound. Big call.
Woo! Mert, just need to do a welfare check to make sure you're not in that grave you put yourself in last week. Just want to give a shout out to ADJ and his pressure. He's absolutely put it on the doggies this weekend. Stringer delivering that package like always. Merritt with the class. The Rucks both being there for being down the line and just giving an option to the Dons. Oh, we're back, baby. We're back. Lock us in for top 4. May as well give us the prelim now. Woo!
Yeah, it definitely hasn't gone to his head, that one.
What do they say? A week's a long time in football.
Yeah,
something like that.
Exactly. I think it was funeral territory last week. This next one's from Shin Bomber.
Boys, is it just me, or did Brad Scott and Todd Goldstein just bring a little bit of shin boner to Bomberland? Backs against the wall this week, and I don't know about you guys, but all of a sudden it just feels like my shin is located on my cock. And I think that's the shin boner. Maybe it's the shin bomber. Let's fucking go. Yeah.
Oh, I really debated with myself as I was going to put that in, but I thought I should.
You did say there was going to be a theme to this week's hot takes.
Well, that was one. There was a lot of phallus chatters. There often is after a win, but I thought that was funny, so I put it in. So I hope you all enjoyed that one. Next one is the Dozer effect.
Hey boys, put away the coffin, smash it to pieces, and get around your fucking Winnie Blues. The fucking Dozer effect. Go the fucking Dons.
Not bad. Been a while since I've had a Winnie Blue. Or never, if Dad, you're listening. Never, clearly. This next one's from Max. Thank you, Max.
Harry Jones, oh, always believe in your soul. You've got the power to know you're indestructible. Always believe in Harry Jones, oh.
Love that. Yeah, that was our when I went to the Russian World Cup in 2018. That was our. Well, obviously not Harry Jones, but that song was our chant. It was green and gold, gold. We're on the road to Moscow, and then some other lyrics, and that's all we sang all day long. It was great, all day long. Next one is from not that one. Sorry to that one. Next one is from Tin Boo. I don't know how to say this name, but thanks, Tin Boo.
Old MacDonald had a farm. E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm, he kept some dogs from doing fucking shit. Not a woof woof here or a woof woof there. Where's the wolf? Not a wolf. Never even worry about the wolf. Oh, Mackie, Big McCabe, fucking Mackay. Jeez, how good. And our franchise boy, little Xavier Dursma with the John Cena. Don't worry about it. Little Arrow, shake your face. You don't see me too much. Jeez, everyone was good. Everyone was good, weren't they? Even the ones that weren't good were good. We're lucky, we're unlucky, but geez, our dead-eyed dicks in front of goal. It's looking pretty good. At times. As you know. It looked good at times. But I think that was almost 4 quarters. I actually just checked back on the scores on the walk home with my rolled ankle that I did at dinner for some reason. And I realised we were up at every quarter. It's pretty good. Love you all. Love everything. Love wins. Congratulations on the bubba. Let's go, Dons.
There we go. That was a good one.
Bit of everything in that. We started at Old McDonald and we had a rolled ankle and a congrats to you.
Yeah, exactly. How do you roll your ankle at dinner? What are you doing? What are you doing at dinner? I mean, unless you're jumping around while you're eating. Next one. Let's go to Michael. Thank you, Michael.
G'day, gents. Great win tonight. Good bounce back from last week. I just thought it was a really good collective. As a whole, I think everyone played really well. Really good to see. One thing I thought our midfielders haven't done for a long time he's gone back and kicked goals. That's one thing we've really lacked in.
Mm-hmm.
So, good to see Dersma, Caldwell, Durham, even Martin getting involved on the scoreboard. Thought that really helped. Other than that, too many names to mention. Jones, another cracker game. It was just really good to beat a side of Western Bulldogs calibre and sort of belt them, really, which is something we haven't done in a while. It would have been good to win by 50, but it was a good win overall. And we go again next week. Go the Plains.
There we go.
Yeah, the spread of goal kickers was actually a good point that I forgot to bring up. We had 10 different goal kickers. Spoke a couple of weeks ago that we relied on our forward line and that was it. It's good to see a few of the different boys hitting the scoreboard, so it's a good point.
Well said. Next one's from Tom Spargo.
How are we, fellas? What a win. That is fucking brilliant. That is brilliant. I just want to give a quick shout out to bloody fucking Ben Mackay. What a guy. Mate, he stands tall. He is there. He clunks marks. I pulled something out of. I think he pulled something out of fucking his pocket last night, and it was Aaron fucking Norton. Suck my fucking nuts. Get out of here. Sammy does. Oh, he's a freak. Toddy Goldstein take a bow. Tim English had nothing on him. The skip though, the skipper. Leads in, week out. Fucking comes out. He's the best he can be. He's a G. Up the fucking Plains, boys.
Thank you, Tommy. Up the Plains indeed. Let's just keep rolling. Let's got Jack next. Thank you, Jack.
G'day, lads. Long-time listener, first-time hot taker. Just sitting back on the Saturday reflecting on yesterday's match. Just thinking this team is like the abusive partner that, hurts you badly and then drags you back in right when you think they're done. So, huge win last night in front of a monster crowd. Let's just see if we can back it up 2 weeks in a row. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
It would be nice. Oh, there you go. Up the Plains. It would be nice. It would be nice to back it up, and that is the theme. But yeah, abusive partner Essendon.
I think we can all resonate with that a little bit. We've been abused over the years, but we keep coming back for more, don't we?
Keep coming back. The getting's good. Nico is a sweaty man. Thank you, Nico.
I just want to say, up the Dons. What a win last night. Jackie Stringer, I love him. I want his babies. He is the best ever. And get stuffed, dogs. Get a dog up ya. Woo!
Easy. Simple and to the point. This next one is from Biggest Dickus. God.
Just sitting here, Saturday morning. Weather's all right, but it feels fucking amazing. And I realise how much this fucking club controls my emotions, which isn't good for me because we're fucking shit most of the time and it sucks. But today's a good day. Sammy Durham, hats off to you, mate. And Harry Jones, never doubted you for a second. Go the Plains.
There's a few people who, look, we've all eaten a bit of humble pie after a performance like that because there's all been someone that we've potted and said's never going to do it. I know Mert probably listed half the club last week. But yeah, I'm wrapped for Jonesy because, I think I said after the St Kilda game, it's, confidence now to perform again, and then he's had another really good game this week. So
might have been the blessing in disguise for Jonesy when he got dropped and then got the late call back up. Something might have clicked there. And if that's the kick up the bum he needed and he's going to perform with that intensity and effort, as I said, every week, then he's in the side.
Yep.
No questions asked.
Yep. Next one's from Nadsy. Thank you, Nadsy.
Bulldogs. More like bullfrogs. Am I right? Up the fucking Plains.
Oh, simple but effective. That's what I like about hot takes is you get the people who do stuff like that and the people who analyse the game. And it's just a nice balance of all. It's great. Thank you. Thank you, Nadsy, wherever you may be. I see you got a UK email address, so if you're over there in the UK, hello to you. Speaking of foreign listeners, Garrett from Canada. I haven't heard from Garrett in a while.
Hey, boys. How are we doing today? I imagine a lot better than last week, that's for sure. I kind of heard the mention of what I presume was me after Rory from Scotland was sharing his knowledge. International fans unite, of course. Mine's a little bit more of a Nuffy vibe as opposed to his knowledge and stats. You got to say, like, Essendon's like that crazy, crazy hot chick. You know, she's into chakra, crystals, and astrology and everything. And you hook up once and your boys are all happy for you. And then the next week she texts you 1,300 times, shows up at your work unannounced, you know, met your family before you even introduce them. Just sheer craziness. And you say, I'm never going to do this again. A week later, it's 3 a.m. You text her, you up? She always texts back. That's why you get sucked in. Cheers, boys. Up the plains.
Eloquently put, Garrett. Eloquently put. I actually know a friend I used to play amateur footy with. This would have been, 10 years ago, maybe even more than that. And he was seeing a young lass, and he showed me his phone, and there was, between text messages and missed calls, it was 5 digits. I know, it was insane. Like, I think got to a point that there may have had to been a court involved, and I was like, that's something else. Can't say I've ever had that effect on a person in my life, but well done to that man. But yeah, great from Garrett. And we do love our international listeners. There's a few of them, and we love them all deeply. Let's keep moving because we can't get them all in, and I have to go home soon. Let's wrap it up. And it would only be fitting to wrap it up with Lurker. So we'll wrap up with Lurker, and that'll do us for an evening, I reckon.
Dons display deep determination to defeat downcast Dogs. Does demonstrate dominance to drop Bonce Dax. Brad Buoyant. Bevo Devoed. Go Bombers.
Love it. Love it. Brilliant from Lurker. International man of mystery. We just don't know who he is. Could be anyone.
That's why I love it.
Could be anyone. Derek has theories. He reckons it's a popular Australian comedian, but we don't know. We don't know. Just a quick, this is a really random one, just to end the show on. Now, we have lots of lovely fans of the show who message the page quite regularly, whether it be on mainly Facebook or Instagram, but some other platforms. Now, this is a message to a listener by the name of Derek Jordan. Derek, for whatever reason, your Facebook settings mean that I cannot reply to your DMs. Every time I do, I get an error, and all it lets me do is react to what you're saying. And I think we're at the point where you've sent 10 messages to the page and I haven't replied. And I just want to let you know that I can't reply. I'm not a dick. I just can't reply because Facebook won't let me. So change whatever setting you need to on your Facebook, and I'll happily talk footy with you because I would love to. But every time I do, I get an error saying won't send. And there's no other person I have this problem with. So I feel like it must be your profile. So Derek, love your work. Sort it out, please, and we can chat. So there you go. Thanks, everyone. Good show. We'll be back on Thursday for the premium preview show. Let's look at the roster, James. I wonder who's on this week. Let's have a look. Damo's on. Dr. Damo, smart Damo in the house. So we'll get the lowdown on all the injuries from him, which is always
That'll be
good.
the show.
That'll be the show. That'll be the show. It'll be 10 hours of going through injuries with him. But that'll be good. Leading to the game against the Crom, of course, on Friday night. Thank you to our sponsors who, without their fantastic investment in the show, we wouldn't be able to stay in this video studio. So if you're looking for some custom sportswear for your sportswear team or just yourself, get on FE Custom. And if you are one of the privileged people out there who has a property that they need to be managed, Holland Price are the people for that. If not, subscribe to the premium show, get the extra show every single week. You get a bit of bonus content as well. Thanks to you, James, for being here. Any final thoughts from you?
My pleasure, Rob. Final thoughts. Big month of footy for us now.
Yep.
We have shown our best. We've shown our worst, but some very winnable games coming up. So big month of footy for the Dons up the plains.
Yes, massive month ahead. Thank you, everyone who has listened and watched the show. Why not go leave a review? Leave something positive or tell us we suck. Either's fine. I don't mind. It's all good for the algorithm if you leave a review, isn't it? Tell me I have a fat head. That's what some people do. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, everyone in the studio. Even though it's just the three of us, I'm acting like there's a huge crowd here. To the many thousands of live viewers who've come in, this is like the Tonight Show in America. There's actually like a studio audience. It's like Bounce, It's like that Bounce. God, that is the death of television. Anyway, thanks, everyone. Love you all. Up the Plains. Go Bombers. We'll see you next time. Bye.